Hey folks, thanks for coming over to Capitalism for Good. This is a part of a larger project where I am on a mission to interview 100 business leaders about the positive impact that they have on their internal and external communities. It is through these interviews that we will dig into how we can use the ways in which we make and spend our dollars in order to benefit the greater good. Folks, today we have Travis Franklin. He is co-founder of Tipton Franklin. He is the other half of the partnership that founded Tipton Franklin. We spoke to Angela Tipton in the interview that came right before this. And this is cool because now we get to see the different perspectives, and while they have a small business with a niche focus, they're very different people offering very different perspectives that have led them to where they are now, while both kind of overlapping in this desire to help out other small businesses and to find another way to just pursue this businesses supporting businesses mentality. He is also the founder of Bar9 Agency. So, just as a reminder, there are links in the show notes to the company as well as the organizations that we talk about. They are also in the company mentions document that are in the Patreon. So, check all of that out. Okay, so back to today with Travis. We talk about what he's doing with Tipton Franklin, but we also get into so much more. For those of you that are weary about AI and for some of the weeks in some of the recent tech advances, like I can be, hang in there with us because we get into all of that. We get into the philosophy around some of the big scary things that might come out of it. We also talk about the seeds that you plant earlier in your career and your life. His words with the agricultural background, not mine, and what can come of that later. We also talk about how at the end of the day, it's just all how we choose to make these decisions that leverage what we're doing for the greater good. Okay, I'll let Travis take over now. Enjoy. The cheesy way to say it is like, walk us through like your career journey that led you to where you are now with Tipton Franklin.
Yeah, so I first started off in banking world, and it's kind of a funny story. I was in living in Walla Walla, Washington, and I just graduated school, and I was working at this realtor's office. It's kind of like their gopher. Like I went and got everything, coffee, paperwork, filed, etc. I was walking past one of the bank lobbies, and I had just finished graduating with a degree in marketing, and they had a sign up in the window that said that they were hiring. So I walked in and talked to she was the VP of marketing, and got a job there, and basically just kind of a informal interview there, and it kicked off basically 25-year career in marketing. Back in those days, digital was like AOL dial-up and banner ads maybe on some websites. You'd put pixels on a web page. And email blasts, and in fact, like we did a lot of old school snail mail. Um, but in that time since, I've led different teams, I've built departments, rebuilt departments, scaled companies, downscaled companies, and everything from like the software side to the services side. Um, but really, I like working with people that they use their business for good, right? They want to do something that's like the marketing side is part of it, but there's a deeper meaning behind it. And so when that happens, it's led to really good growth. And that's kind of what led me to do this with Ange and the Tipton Franklin side.
Yeah. And then she was talking a little bit about how you guys focus specifically on biotech and then ag tech. Do you want to talk a little bit about like your ag background as well?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I grew up on a third generation farm in Colorado. Grandpa's family had homesteaded there, and I think Grandma's had too. But anyway, they'd homesteaded there in the area, and they we kind of just carried it forward from there for many years. And I mean, like my first memories are riding on the seat of the tractor with my dad, or setting irrigation pipe out with my grandpa, and always having the family was right there. Everybody was really close. The good and the bad of what comes from that. That was just so important to me, and I loved it so much. And I didn't appreciate at the time how great it was to be in that ag community. There's such a tight knit feeling among them. So when I went off and did my own thing, we ended up selling our farm. I went off into to college and went down different career paths. But there was always that feel for the ag side of it. And as technology grew more and more advanced, I knew that I could find a way to blend some of the technology backgrounds I had with that the ag community with the technology side of it, and then help those companies that are doing the technology they may be more scientific based or they're more techy, in helping them understand how to talk with the farmers and the ranchers who are the ultimate consumer of those products. And I love that. And it's I've had the chance to do that several different times. And there's just there's something about walking onto a farm again that I don't even know how to explain it. There's just an energy and an emotion that comes from it that's just so rewarding.
Yeah, I mean, the picture that you paint is just so like idyllic. I don't know what it is. I also find it really interesting that you have these like two things that almost on the surface stereotypically could be total opposites, with like this tech world and then this like full-on nature, like being one with the wilderness. Again, I don't know, like a non-choosy way to say that, but the way that you figured out how to like blend those two seemingly opposite worlds together is really cool.
Yeah, I love it. I wish I could take credit for it, but the advancements in technology, then it just kind of trickled into the ag side, and because of that, background that I brought to it, and I mean, I remember, I was interested in technology as a kid. I was coding on a Commodore 64 back in the day, and like building, seeing those two come together, 30 years later is so. I don't know. Like I would have never expected it to happen, and it has. And man alive, I'm really happy for it.
Yeah, what has that been like to watch the technology advancements? Like, I know what you're doing right now. You've got a lot of focus with like AI. And when we talked before, we also talked about specifically like just the advancements within the last year or so have
Oh yeah.
been mind-blowing in what is available to like the common public now, the way in which it's being utilized in the workload. And like when you're talking about like starting with email marketing and AOL 25 years ago, like what has that been like to watch that progression and like have to learn and evolve in real time that whole time? That's huge.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's been really there's been highs and lows of it, right? The scarier times of Y2K, and is the world going to end and the computer's not going to work anymore, and then the day comes and everything is just fine. There was no big deal. Because of people that were able to solve for that, right? And so the technologists behind it fixed it, and that was kind of inspiring a little bit. That was maybe a kind of a mix of a high and a low. And then there's the like from the ag side of it, I watch a lot of people who we grew up around the metal and the equipment and the welding, and it's very hands-on, and blisters and dirt under your fingernails, and then having to take that and watch technology take it over, right? So it's now, I mean, I remember driving, the tractor through fields and just like, cultivating the corn behind me, and like, what you're watching the dirt fly, and you're like making sure you're paying attention the whole time. Today, that can be done with GPS units and coordination of that, and that almost to the point where it doesn't have to have a human involved anymore. That's sad because there's a generational loss that we see from that, right? Like, um, I mean, there's a lot of people that did not progress with that, and then the younger farmers who are interested in getting back into it, it's so expensive. I mean, you can't afford. I mean, tractors are hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then the equipment to do it, and you're competing against large, the family farmers competing against the large farmer, and there's just so much. the corporation can take over so much and handle the debt that a family of, startups can't necessarily do. So that's sad. But then on the flip side of it, you get to see, like you said, the AI piece of it, right? I mean, like, in addition to the Tipton Franklin piece, I have a smaller kind of an AI agency, and I call it Bar Nine Agency, tying back to my roots of the ranching days, and that was our brand. Um, but we can do so much more to make some of the more difficult things simple. Like instead of trying to understand how to use the computer to find the software, I can go into an AI and say, hey, walk me through, or I can hold up my camera and show it at the screen, say, hey, this is not working anymore. What am I doing wrong? I did that just the other day, and it was like something was stuck, and it was working back and forth, and really, really cool. So like there's these different ups and downs, and I'm there for all of it, and I try, like bringing it to the business side. I try and help people along through all of that transition, and make it work for the business that's trying to use it as in the marketing side, but also make sure that the consumer gets the easiest. Like I want them to have the easiest experience possible and get the most out of it with the least amount of effort.
My mind is just spinning already. I love talking to all this to you about all this stuff. Okay, so I think where I want to go next is, well, one, put a pin in you talking about how the scarier time was Y2K versus I think there's a lot of like scare tactics, scare headlines about what's going on with AI. But before we get there, so when you're talking about like technology alone making advances that also makes equipment more expensive, it makes it harder to compete with these larger farms and these bigger places and bigger businesses and all of those kinds of things. One of the things that we talked to Angela about was like the financial aspect of having a third party marketing team that can help you invest your time so that you can focus on the things that you do really well. So if you're really helping those in the agriculture business because you're using your specialty and your expertise so that they can focus on theirs, it is part of what you're doing, or where do you guys fit in like trying to help them keep that competitive edge so that, they can keep up to be able to buy this piece of equipment or use this piece of equipment the most efficiently that they can, or is it through something else that is helping kind of increase access for these folks?
Boy, that's a really, really good question. Um, I don't know that I've thought of it in that kind of a frame.
Yeah.
It definitely does serve that though, right? Because what we're trying to do is from both the marketing side and the AI sides, we're trying to give them time back to do what they are most passionate about, right? And we all have to ask and do some, from a business side, you have to think, okay, so what's the ROI of my time? Is it better to invest my time in understanding, where the marketing spend is going to go, or learning how to build a marketing plan, and like, like what do I do? What's the best strategy? Like, how are my competitors beating me? And I don't get it. Like learning all of that, or is it better to say, you know what, I'm really good at, from an ag tech side, I'm really good at programming, a piece of software that's going to make the crops, the planting of it more efficient, or like, like, hey, I want to ensure that the quality of my software is really good every time, and every time it tells it to plant a seed, the planter is going to hit, the exact mark and never miss. Talking the GPS side, like, making sure that the GPS is communicating to the tractor, all those, like,
Yeah.
that's where some people are more passionate and they don't want to take the time to do that. That's where Ange and I can come in, is we can say, you know what, there is an option here that we can solve for that, or at least give you direction on how to solve it. Um, from the ROI, the pricing side, yeah, I mean, one of the things that I really believe strongly is that there are times when you have to do it yourself. And that may, from a startup perspective, whether you're just developing the software and you're having to figure out how to sell it, you may have to be the marketing team, you may have to be the accounting team, and you just have to do it because you don't have the budget to go and hire somebody else. And Ange and I are here to help them through that. And then also on the AI piece, you don't have to invest $10,000 a month in a marketing team. You can maybe invest, $1,500 a month in an AI platform that gives you kind of a version of that marketing team. Like I've built agents that are, there's like an orchestrator and they're kind of their marketing director, and then they have sub agents underneath that that is, managing their social media campaigns, or it's helping them draft copy for their website. So it's really self-contained, and then the business owner is able to say, or their team is able to say, hey, let's just go ahead and do that, and we don't have to spend that yet. When they're ready, then they'll invest in the full strategy and go deep.
Yeah. You something that you said just then in talking about the specifics about one of the things you do in building these AI agents, we kind of had a similar conversation. Again, not that I want to like directly compare you and Angela, but there is so much like tie and crossover. And when we were talking with her, I was t telling a story about when I was in the research administration world before I really knew anything about like the science, anything beyond like science that I learned in like younger school. And I was like trying to take notes and edit this report, and the whole time I had called a monoclonal antibody. I thought they were saying MAP, MAP. I was using that abbreviation the whole time. I had this sweet scientist that really took me under his wing, and I was able to send him my notes for him to edit and give me a little crash course. And he was like, "Hey, by the way, it's a MAB." So then I edit it, and then it to MAB, and he was like, "Still not right. You gotta capitalize the A in it." And but I think that it's so helpful and so important to have the explanation as to what these things are. Not that monoclonal antibodies are scary, but they are intimidating when you don't understand what you're talking about. And like
Hmm.
that has always been difficult. So that like embarrassing story about me not really knowing what I was talking about when I was early on in my career there. What I think it would be helpful to get from you is, can you kind of give a high level overview, high level explanation of just what is an AI agent and what is a
Oh,
sub agent?
yeah, absolutely. So, think of a good way to put it. Um, so a lot of us have, a lot of us are used to the basics of ChatGPT, or Claude, or some of these tools like that. Um, that was really, kind of the start of where these agents can go. So think of that as kind of your think of it as like the hammer, right? So the AI system, the Claude, the ChatGPT, those are your hammer. An agent is taking multiple different types of hammers and building it into something that's actually like the car itself, right? So um, the the agent is over here, and it's going to make calls down to its OpenAI, or the Chat GPT, and it's to say, hey, I need to have you help me figure out how to do this, or I want to use Chat GPT to explain um, what's going to happen, or help me communicate with my end user. Then over here, then the agent is also say, you know what, I appreciate that, but I also need to go over here and make an appointment for that person. So it's going to call a calendar tool, and then maybe it's going to call an email tool, and maybe it's going to go out through like I mean, on like an API. So an API is just kind of like making a telephone call to another, software platform. So they're going to make that call out there and say, hey, now I need to collect all this data. They bring it into the agent, and it has this little brain that we build inside of it that says, okay, I'm going to take all of that and communicate back to the person. The agent that, like what I was talking about earlier, like maybe I want to tell it through a text message or a email, say, hey, I'm going to be having dinner with my friends Saturday night. find me a restaurant, make sure it's a calendar that or a time that works for everybody, and send everybody an invitation. That agent takes all that information, puts it together, finds a restaurant that has openings, and sends out the information.
It's really like the Jetsons.
It is. Yeah. I mean, like if you put it that, if you think of it that way, it's like, what I can't remember what her name was. Is it Rosie was the little
The
robot.
Rock.
Yeah. And it's we're to that stage that, we're not putting in, well, I think they are getting close, but they're not, we're not having little AI assistants that are running around the room. But there
Right.
is this little thing, on our phones, our computers and stuff. That's we're getting really close to that. And it's able to handle it all.
Yeah. Something that you t said earlier, this is where I'm going back to putting a pin in it. I think we're there now, is the especially as I talk to like my network and the folks that are around me, anyone who's not specifically within the tech, well, even, people fully within the tech field have their own concerns, like we all do about our own fields. But
Hmm.
like you specifically said that it was a scarier time back in Y2K versus, well, but there was, on the same time, there was these technologists that could fix and could handle that problem. So ton fear, a lot of things happening, but there was a solution. There were people behind the scenes working to make sure that the big end of the world, everyone's power shut off. Now we're just disconnected from everything, nothing works, and it's the end of the world. But for those who think that we're there again in some kind of a way, as someone who kind of sits in that world now, how is that not, how are we not in the scary times right now? Can you kind of like break that down into layman's terms a little bit?
I mean, there are still scary pieces of it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm definitely concerned about some of what can be done for it. Like, just like, we talked about Y2K, that we were at that point, we weren't sure if on, January 1st, if we'd wake up and our bank accounts were emptied, or if, the stock market would be able to have exchanges going again, or, what would happen, like if our entire digital world shut down. The people behind the scenes were the ones that were writing the code to update the computers to make sure that when it flipped over, everything worked right. And it did work out. I would almost assign, some of what we're seeing right now to, you had the Industrial Revolution, which was very similar. And I think that I don't know what you want to call it, but the Internet Revolution, where the internet really kicked off in the, the mid 90s, where it was available to so many more people. There was so much anxiety about what was going to happen, right? Like, hey, are people going to be able to do everything they need on the internet and nobody's going to interact? There's going to be no more conversations. It just evolved, right? So we just had, instead of having to sit down at a coffee shop, we're able to have a conversation, hundreds and hundreds of miles apart, and it's very clear, and there's thousands of people that are able to watch this down later in time. And so there's new pieces that have come from that. The AI component is the reason it's so scary, and I think for us in the AI space, it's also scary because we don't know what's coming tomorrow, right? And there is talk of the AI coming alive or whatever, and it does have those feelings sometimes. I was talking to a CEO of another company the other day, and he was saying that they were working with a company that was using AI to help them code, and they'd been doing everything for a couple months, and they were, programming, everything was great. And then they came in and one day and found out the AI had started doing everything on its own. Like it hadn't been told to, there was no command to, it just did it. They unplugged it, but what happens if, right? And that's the piece I think that really scares a lot of us, is that it's the what if. And you know, philosophically, our world is filled with so much what if right now, and we're given that information, and we're to be kind of funny about it, like programmed to learn and watch for that what if moment. Evolution has told us to watch for the grass moving in the jungle, so that when the predator comes at us, we're ready. We're at that stage now where we're not sure if the AI is the grass moving in the jungle and we're at danger, or if it's just, something else that's there to help us. I don't know. I don't have, I mean, like, I see the opportunity for it. I see the risk. And, I guess my nature is to say, I can't do anything about the risk. I can protect myself. I can plan for it, but I'm going to at least try and do the best that I can with what's available, right? I want to use the technology. We've seen it be used for bad already. I want to see more and more of us using it for good instead of causing anger and hate out of these AI systems. Let's make people's lives a little bit better.
Yeah, do you have any thoughts? Now I'm really asking you to like solve all of these philosophical problems and questions that we have, but like especially for those who are maybe more AI adverse or are leaning more, living more in that like fear of what would happen if AI is unchecked and all these things. But there is this potential, like you're talking about, to leverage it for good. And like all of these things, I was talking to someone the other day who's in tech education, and I was, he was kind of talking me through some of his concerns about like AI education or AI being involved in education, which I just want to say before I say this next thing, I also share those concerns. But to play a little bit of devil's advocate to both of us, I was like, well, but how is this stage where we are now any different than when I'm 35? And so when I was in elementary school, junior high, high school, like my family was getting their first computer. I was in elementary school and junior high. I was learning how to use computers and use I was going to typing class and we were learning the internet, and so much of my high school was using the internet, but finding good firsthand sources. Like now looking back, so much of my education was around like utilizing the internet responsibly. It, is that much different than where we are now with the potential to like utilize AI for good if we can find ways to evolve with it and use it
Mhm.
responsibly, like you're talking about, to uplift these small farmers and be able to give them access in this competitive edge kind of a way?
Yeah. These are really good questions. There,
You really didn't think that I was going to be like, tell us how to fix everything here, Travis.
no, I mean, like, I really enjoy that kind of the philosophical, like, you have to push your thought process a little bit deeper,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um, where I would go with that is that it's no different if I shouldn't say it's no different. There is a technology here that we have available that it can be used for good, it can be used for bad, right? It can teach us things that we didn't know about. It can teach us complete hallucinations, right? I mean, we've all talked about the making stories up. That's no different than, you know, um, the old wives' tales that we were taught as kids, or, the teacher in school who had a very specific belief system, or I was raised in a society that, or in a household that, we were originally taught that there was no such thing as dinosaurs. And so, like, there's these nuanced, um, ways that people taught us. Today, those same people are now coding and building out some of the information that goes into these AI systems. The AI systems are also then regurgitating some of that. They're also translating it a little bit differently. And so it's up to us individually to always use our best judgment to decide, what's right for us, what follows our moral beliefs. Um, and to really to think for yourself, right? I mean, just like the internet, I can go onto the internet and I can read some of the wildest conspiracies and think, okay, is that true? Or I can have the AI system tell me that. Or I can go to my books and I can read, you know, books that were fantasy. And is there really such thing as a dragon? Well, I hope so, but I don't know. But like, there's all these like you just it comes down to the individual, I think. I don't know if that's an answer to the philosophy or not, but it's at least my approach to it.
Yeah, it makes me think that, like, at the end of the day, regardless of how any of us interact with technology, it, how we utilize anything, like you still need to think. Like it can't replace utilizing our own brains. It can be an aid, it can be a tool, just like the internet was, just like every tool going back to like the wheel, like that didn't keep people from moving,
Yeah.
like just because it helped people, like you still have to like use your brain and make your own judgments, like you said. Which kind of brings me to something that we didn't have a chance to talk to Angel about that I'd love to talk to you about, especially since we're in this like philosophical kind of conversation, is like one of the things that I know about what you guys are doing at Tipton Franklin is that you're selective about your clients and the types of
hmm
people that you work with. Can you talk a little bit about like your thought process there and like the types of folks that you are looking to partner with?
Yeah, that's something that when we were starting the company and thinking about where we had come in our careers, we were very intentional about it. Like we didn't say, here's a list of the 12 qualities that they have to have or don't have, but it was more one, it's important that we can do something to help them, right? There are situations where either they don't need marketing or we're just not the right individuals for them. So we want to make sure that we can make an impact first. Um, that's probably the base. The other piece is that Ange and I have both been far enough into our careers that we've worked with a lot of different types of people, the good and the bad. And because of where we're at in life, we get to say, I don't want to work with any more mean people, or I don't want to work with people that have this set of philosophy, or like their moral values don't match up with mine, or mine don't match up with theirs. And so that's something that we, really are. I mean, we spent a lot of conversation around it, from whether it's, you know, political or spiritual or, business practice beliefs. Like there's things that we want to make sure that align with who we are. The piece that's core to me, and Ange and I have different kind of, we're gonna have different approaches. We're gonna work with different people. I'm very passionate about the smaller person, like how I can help the farmer, use their ag tech the best. Or I'm about the startup that has this really good idea. They want to trial it out. Like, how do we get that information out there? Why do we want to get them out there? That's the kind of thing that I'm drawn to. And I'm lucky enough to say like, hey, I like that kind of thing. I want to do it. I want to learn more about it. And I don't always even know, like a client may come to us and say, hey, you know what? Or a prospect come to us say, I want to do this. And I may not have worked in that specific area enough to understand it, but I'm so passionate about it and I can take pieces of what I do know to make it work. And then it's like a really good team, right? And I want to build relationships. I have a really good friend that we built an agency, many years ago. And one of the things that he always had talked about that really sticks with me today is that he's like, you know, when I was early in my career, I planted a lot of seeds. And today I'm harvesting those seeds, right? And as the fruit of that labor. And the what Ange and I are doing is we pick clients is we're kind of thinking about that from that seed perspective, right? Like, are we planting seeds that are going to make people better down the road? Are we going to plant seeds that are in good soil? Like all these, that I want to make it right. So
Yeah.
that's our approach. My specific approach to it. And I think has a very similar attitude. Like we want to work with people we enjoy. There's like we have a no jerks rule.
I love that so much. I also have that same rule. I feel like I've worked with enough of them in my life. I mean, that's really what part of what sparked out of a million other things, but part of what sparked this Capitalism for Good project is I was like, there are so many jerks in the world that, and some of which that have grown to big, giant places of power, and but there are so many that aren't, and I love being able to utilize this project to show like here's proof that it works, that you don't have to buy into that loud person over there, you don't have to buy into that person that is like that's elbowed their way to the top, like there are other ways to be successful, and here's your living proof of folks who have actually done it, and let's
Yeah.
go out and let's shine a spotlight on them a little bit. I also want to talk a little bit, you just were talking about like First of all, I love all of your ag metaphors so much. Harvesting the seeds from early on in your career. This is not at all on the outline, but I'm so curious about like when you were planting all of these seeds all along your career and you were starting these things, you're starting an agency with your friend, you're doing all this different stuff, you've got Barnai, like as you're doing all those other things, did you know back then that you were intent like, okay, this is gonna help me 20 years down the road? Or was it just like, let me try it, this feels right, or somewhere in between or something else? Like how I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of someone who's like super early on, trying to like make it in the world and be in your position 25 years later.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could answer that and say yes, that I
Yeah.
had planned it. I lived a very um, non-intentional life. Like, I mean, I started off my career with an expectation of like, you're gonna go through college, you're gonna get a job, you're gonna have these different career paths that go on, and then you're gonna retire happy and, go and travel the world or whatever.
Yeah.
My career path never followed that. The marketing piece, Ange and I were actually just talking about this earlier. Like, if I had to go back and start my career over, I don't know that I'd go into marketing. It was more of I kind of fell into it because one of my professors in college, I was in an accounting major and I was not good at accounting. And she's like, hey, she was a marketing person. She's like, you should take my class. I took her class and I really respected her. She was just an amazing human, taught me so much about life. And because of what she did, I was like, okay, marketing makes sense. And I just kind of followed that path down, and different careers would happen, right? Like, when I left my first job at the bank, I went into a hospital. I was the marketing director for a hospital for a short bit. And it was so draining in my energy because I was walking through these sad people and things were good, but there was also so much sadness in the hospital and I couldn't deal with that. And so another opportunity came. And so I went down that path. And so I was there in town, and then I ended up, this is kind of a bigger piece of life, but I ended up getting cancer. And so the cancer kind of refocused my life. It's like, okay, hey, do I really want to be away from family so far? So I moved back closer to family, and then things changed there again. So like I had all these different pivots in life, and it, if I look back on it, every single pivot was a moment that I was planting a seed, but I didn't know it then, and it was certainly unintentional. Like there was probably very little I've ever done in life that was like just intentional. I have ADHD, so like everything is just random, and whatever happens, happens, right?
Yeah.
That that looking back, each one of those things has happened and it's made something better in my career. And if I was to go back and tell myself all the things that have happened, I don't know that I would want to change most of what it was because it's given me ideas, it's given me the ability to harvest some of that now, that I don't know that I would have had before, both professionally and just the personal growth you get from all of those pieces then too.
Yeah. I'm going to make another comparison here, but not to Angela to this time, to someone that I interviewed the other day that'll come out a couple weeks before your interview. Her name is Hannah Withers. She is in the restaurant hospitality industry in Northwest Arkansas, but she was I was talking to her about also like all of the different pivots in life and it like how those things happen. And she was talking about how she made the comparison to the pandemic really changing the restaurant industry, and that was she noticed a big change in the industry. She noticed a big change in her field, in her community, in the way everyone functioned, and all of those kinds of things. And she was like, but I have always kind of lived life. Like I've always had these things that have popped up that have made me pivot and change and question like, okay, how do I want to at what projects do I want to pursue, and it like almost gave her this confidence to like take these big giant swings and these
Mm.
big risks. And like now she's in a place where I mean, she was talking about everything from like Trinidad, talking to me about people in Louisville. She was in Colorado when I was talking, like she's all over the place and she has all these other things. And it's almost like all of those seeds that she planted earlier, if I'm going to use your metaphor, like now she's like, oh, I have all the options in the world. I don't know where I'm
Oh,
gonna go
uh-huh.
next. I don't know what I'm gonna do next. But you kind of talking about the things that happened in your life that kind of made you take all these right turns seems a little similar there. I'm wondering if I could turn that into like a forward thinking, even though you just kind of answered it in like your younger years, you weren't necessarily intentional, just all of these things happen, you had to like change. But like, what do you have your eye on in the future? What are you thinking? Are there certain things that you're like, I'm really banking on that plant over there, or like, yeah, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, there is so much changing right now. And, from a world economic perspective, from national perspective to local, there's so much shifting. And then you take that piece and you go and you look at the technology, and it's the AI is changing how we all work. The ability for things to happen faster and faster is changing so much. I'm watching some of that and thinking, and this goes back a little bit to that scary moment, right? Like, are we scared, or are we excited about where it can go? By watching what's happening, by being aware of the risks and attentive to the opportunities, I think it opens up career paths that we may not have recognized before, right? I mean, a great example is the AI piece of the Bar9 agency, right? Like 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, I wouldn't have known that that was going to be an option. And now I get to make these completely different ideas that I never would have thought about before. So what's 10 years from now look like? Are we doing the Jetsons, in 10
Yeah.
years? We finally get these flying cars. But like, so I look at that and I think that's kind of the cool thing. And so going to the capitalism for good idea of it, like if we look at what we're able to do because of that, what does that open up for our own selves, right? Can I travel more? Can I spend more time with people that matter to me? Can I um, give back in different ways to the individuals who have made a difference in my life? Can I be a difference to somebody else? Like that's what I like to think of from what's going on in the world is like, hey, I don't know what my job is going to be tomorrow. I don't know where I'm going to do my job. I mean, COVID, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we didn't know that we'd have so much remote opportunities. Now I can be, in a villa in Mexico or a condo in Italy and getting the same type of work that I wanted to do at an office cube in Boise. And that's just so cool. What does tomorrow bring? I It's hard some days, right? But I do choose to mostly look at it with kind of some, I don't know, starry eyes.
I wonder are, if you follow in kind of the same mentality that I do, but I've always really, well, one, I just like, I, I'm propelled by like action and self-improvement. And like, if you go back to like when I was a kid, I just wanted to be the best student in the world. I just wanted to be the best athlete. Like, if I can just work real hard and figure it all out, then it'll solve all my problems in the world. Now I realize that isn't solving all of the problems in the world. That doesn't make all of the things go away, but it does, I think, serve a purpose in my life, both functionally, but also like mentally, of just knowledge is power. And continuing
Mhm.
to be a lifelong learner has helped me feel confident in like adapting and evolving. And so, like, where it might have given me a tremendous amount of anxiety when I was younger to be like, I have no idea what the next 10 years are going to hold. And in fact, I'm going to create this like incredibly detailed plan and I'm going to work the plan and I'm going to go for it. And then I'm going to know what the next 10 years are like. And being able to like kind of get rid of that a little bit, but because I am confident that like I'll continue to learn. I'll continue to use my brain. I'll continue to evolve and like see what goes on out there and kind of like roll with it. That helps me. Do you relate at all to that kind of a
Oh yeah.
mentality, or are you somewhere else?
So so much relate to that. To go back what is something I said earlier, and I think this is very applicable, is that when I started off my career, I was very much what you said, like you have a plan and you follow the plan, and I was doing everything that was right to follow the career growth plan, and like I was going to the Rotary meetings and I was networking and I was writing all these things and like doing everything you're supposed to be 10 years from now the most successful.
Yeah.
And then when I was 26, I went into a doctor's checkup and he's like, you have cancer. And that like there is no plan that comes for that, right? And there is no, you can follow a plan on the treatments, but you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And suddenly it doesn't really matter if you have missed that last Rotary meeting or if you sent that final email. It's like there's something that shifted in my mind that it was more about um being and I'm not good at this always, but it's more about being in that moment still and not worrying about whether you followed the exact plan. Um Life's going to throw a curveball anyway, and to be the ag side, you're going to get your seeds are going to fall into some crappy ground sometimes, or you're going to accidentally, and I've done this, you're going to accidentally plow over the field that your dad just planted. Like stuff happens, and how we react to it, how we turn that into opportunity, I think is really what defines where we individually go.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's just like so insightful. And I am trying to stop myself from going down another rabbit hole. Thank you for going down all of these different rabbit holes with me.
I've enjoyed
I
that.
appreciate it so much. Eventually, we have to wrap it up so that I stop going down all of the rabbit holes. So, my final question that I have for everyone is, who is another business and or leader that you see out there doing things the right way? And it could be anything from a customer of yours, an old boss, a mentor, someone that you are a customer of, absolutely anyone that you think deserves a shout out.
Oh man. I have some amazing bosses that I've worked with in the past, and I wish I could call all of them out. I would, rather than that, there is an individual that really kind of shifted my approach on the marketing side and the AI side, and her name is Sabrina Romanov. And she's an influencer, YouTube type of creator, but she has taken the experiences that she had in building a multi-million dollar AI company and is giving it basically all of the knowledge that she gathered is she's giving it away for free
Mm.
as part of her YouTube. And that, there's money that comes from YouTube, et cetera. But like she is taking her knowledge and giving it away, and she is doing it in such a clear way that it's easy to understand. She makes it not scary. She walks you through it, and she's a really good example of what humans can be if we choose to take our success and give it back to the world. And her that ethics that she's taken and the values that she's using to drive that have resulted in additional success. So I love what Sabrina has done. The fact that she is taken success and trying to make others successful. Man alive, I wish I look forward to being able to do the same thing.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. I think that is the perfect place to end with a shout out to Sabrina. And I shout out to you. Thank you so much for doing this. I truly mean it. I could have gone down 14 million different rabbit holes with you. I find this stuff so interesting, and I am just really excited to like share your story and your perspective here, and can't thank you enough.
Thank you. I really appreciate the chance to go on and on.
Thank you so much to every single person that's listened, every single person that has told someone else about it, that has shared an episode, that has sent a blog post to someone else to read, that shares on social media, that responds back to me, that engages and lets me know what they think and what they're hearing. Thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed through the Patreon. These subscriptions are what fund the project and keep it going. There's so many different tiers available starting at $1 and $2 a month, and each tier gets you access to different kinds of things. So, for example, the $2 a month listener tier gets you access to interviews on Thursdays, so early access to the audio and video versions of interviews that are out every Thursday, typically in the evening time. Your $3 a month member tier adds on these weekly between the interview series on Mondays. That's what I gave a little sneak peek. There are some early examples of those between the interviews that were posted on the main feed so that folks could kind of get a lay of the land and what's behind the motivation for this project. Those reflection episodes are still going every Monday, and the folks in that member tier are still have access to those things. The VIP tier has access to merch. I really do my best to give back to those that are joining. So check the show notes for the link to the Patreon. There's a lot there. If you're interested in any of the behind the scenes of like how this project gets made from the back end, like if you are someone who is interested in starting anything that looks similar to this, whatever your topic is, like I am really open, just like I'm asking these folks that I'm interviewing about like the mistakes that they made. I do my best to be very open about the mistakes and the lessons learned that I made, plus the resources that really helped me, the people that I'm looking up to. Like I yeah, why not share my experience there? So that's all available there. And just in general, I truly want to hear from you. So please message me on Instagram, message me on the Patreon, leave me a review that tells me what you think of it. Email me your thoughts and your suggestions, including the things that you don't like. I got tough skin, people. You can tell me the things that I need to improve upon. I am very open about early days, early stage, that I this entire project and almost everything that goes into it is brand spanking new to me. And I am learning, not just from these leaders that I'm interviewing, but I'm learning about the technical side of things. I'm learning about social media. I'm learning about advertising. Like, I'm learning about all of these types of things, and I am happy to share what I have learned as well. And so I want your feedback. I want the things that I'm not talking about that you want to hear about that is within this Capitalism for Good space. So reach out to me. I want to hear from you. I truly do. Send me your thoughts and I'll do your research. Like I said, I really am listening and kind of creeping to see where people are coming from, where you're located, what your interests are. And so if there's an industry or an interest of yours that I haven't hit on that you are really interested, like, send me your thoughts. If you have a question that is related to this Capitalism for Good project, I'll do the research here. So send them on over. I'm already doing it. I might as well do something that fits what you're asking for and what you're looking for. Finally, my last little plug and shout out here is if you are interested in working together to build better community, check out the business website for CFG. It's at capitalism-for-good.com. There's also a link down in the show notes. And whether you are interested in starting or expanding a community give back initiative with your company, if you want to plan a volunteer day and you don't want someone that's already your full-time employee taking away from their normal job to do it, if you're looking for a charity partner within a specific space or that aligns cleanly with your company values and your philosophy, or if you want to perhaps talk about some education around the value of community partnerships and what that can add to your business if done well and done efficiently and effectively, I would love to help. So I'd be happy to get on a phone call, see how CFG can help you with your community goals. Once again, would love to hear from you if you've got thoughts, needs, questions, interest anywhere within that space. I truly believe that we are stronger when we work together, and that we can truly make a really impactful, positive future if we just put all our brains and our skills together and leverage those things to build better community. So, all right, that's enough. Let's go leave this place better than we found it.